Welcome to the Libertarian Counterpoint. I'm Richard Fields. On the program today, we have the chairman of the Libertarian Party of El Dorado County, and Tyler Kuski, and also John Cameron, who is the author of Re-Kill, Rewire, and a development officer at Pacific Legal Foundation, as am I. So welcome to the show, everybody, and let's talk a little bit about the big question, the big issue that has dogged libertarian presidential, well, really all libertarian campaigns ever since 1972 when the party got its start, and that is they never very often have very much money to run on. Back in 1980, the libertarian vice presidential candidate was a guy by the name of David Koch, and he put $1 million into the campaign, and that was the high watermark for fundraising for the Libertarian Party. Since that time, not so much money has been spent trying to elect libertarians at any level. This time around, we're looking at a consummate fundraiser in Bill Weld. Bill Weld, the former governor of Massachusetts, is really comfortable trying to raise money. He's got close ties to Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney has actually said he'll consider voting for Gary Johnson. He'll look into it. He said if Bill Weld was at the top of the ticket, he would. It would be a gimme. He's already said he won't vote for Trump, and I can't see him voting for or endorsing Hillary Clinton. Beyond that, super PACs are the name of the game when it comes to raising big money, and there are two guys that are putting together super PACs. Tyler, can you tell us about those?
Yeah, well, we got Matt Kibbe, who is starting the AlternativePAC, and then we have we also have the PurplePAC, which PurplePAC formerly was financing Rand Paul's campaign. Right now, it's they're shifting gears and they're going to start funding or helping the Johnson and Weld campaign. There is a lot of criticism, actually, believe it or not. I checked out some of the works, and there was some criticism about shifting gears. A lot of people were mad at the PAC for actually all of a sudden not supporting Rand Paul anymore, despite the fact that he's already dropped out of the race. I don't really understand the reason behind that, but they did get some negative criticism, and there was a lot of, I noticed on their Facebook page, they had gotten some low star ratings only because they had shifted gears. But
well, I'm guessing that might be because Rand has a difficult Senate re-election campaign going on. Is that?
Yeah.
Is that?
And that's precisely what it is because they're no longer helping Rand out, and there's a lot of Rand supporters who may or may not be libertarian, or they might be Republican, but they certainly want Rand in the Senate more than they want Gary Johnson to be funded.
But Ed Crane, the former CEO of Cato Institute, is the guy that runs PurplePAC, and he pretty much he calls the shots, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So, do you have any idea how much money those PACs have at this point?
I tried looking into it about a month or two ago. I didn't really get an exact ballpark number, and I haven't looked into it recently, so I don't know.
I think it's in the at least 6-7 figures. It's just, at the very least, in both cases. Matt Kibbe, of course, was the formerly the head of FreedomWorks. Mm-hmm. That's the organization that was started back in the 90s by ex-majority leader, the flat tax guy. What was his name? I forget. Anyway, they've been advocating for libertarian economic policies for a very long time.
Well, it sounds like just from those two super PACs that they either have already or will have very soon more money than the Libertarian parties ever had. And there are a number of, I think you're going to see people coming out of the closet, so to speak, on this election, because without any support, without any name recognition at all, what's Johnson polling? 9% in some polls, 11, 12 in others.
Before he was nominated,
yeah.
before he received really any major media exposure, he was polling at 9%. Now he's polling at 12% in a lot of nationwide polls. He's polling as high as 14%, I think it is, or 16% in Utah. 16. And he's polling as high as 22% among independents in a nationwide poll, actually outpolling Hillary Clinton among independents.
So the stated cutoff for presidential polls is 15%.
For debates.
Yeah, for debates, rather. So
the problem, of course, is the ethical integrity of the polling organizations. Now, the polling organizations are all private organizations, and they can write the questions however they want to. And if they write the questions, who are you voting for, Hillary or Trump? Then obviously Gary Johnson's not going to show up in the poll other than as a none of the above or other, which is meaningless. If they include him, then he shows up in the double digits.
Well, actually, there was somebody from the polling committee who had actually publicly stated that they would like to see the polling companies include his name more often. Actually,
Who said that?
I can't remember specifically who, but somebody on the presidential debate committee had actually came out and said that.
Well, that's fine, but if the polling companies have to,
it's still their choice. It's still it's a private entity, so you can't force them to do it. But it is being encouraged. So there might actually be because you are getting some polling companies who are including his name.
Yeah,
not all of them.
As an afterthought, in many cases, what they'll do is they'll do the poll in two ways. They'll do it first, a two candidate race, and then they'll say, if there's a third candidate, how would you vote? And that's where they get in where Gary gets included.
Really, the only political polls that I ever pay attention to is the Gallup poll, and the Gallup poll is a clean poll. And I don't know if they've included him or not.
I haven't really heard that much about Gallup lately.
Yeah.
I know that CBS included him, Fox has included him, in both cases as a second question. There's a couple other polls that have included him, a couple of smaller ones. I know that Rasmussen has been studiously avoiding including him to their very strong discredit, and there's a number of other polling organizations.
Well, I think that
some do, some don't. It's up to them. It would the ethical thing to do at this point, where you have a candidate that is polling when asked, when included, is polling in double digits. They need to include him if they have any hope to have any degree of credibility at all.
What I'd love to see is that bastion of objective reporting, Huffington. I'd like to see the Huffington
I don't think they do polls, do they?
I've seen some
Other than
polls with their name
online
attached.
polls,
Yeah,
with their
but
voters.
I'm almost sure that they're slanted. So, but again, that's why the Gallup organization it makes its money being as objective as anybody in that field is, and I'd really like to see a poll that they put together. And the nice thing about Gallup is they publish their polling questions, and so it's pretty easy to see. They basically publish the same poll that their 3,000 seat telemarketing polling operation uses. So I'd love to see them, and I'll look that up after the show. I wish I'd looked it up before.
I think the bottom line thing here is that polling close to double digits before the convention. Now that the convention has taken place and he has secured Bill Weld as his running mate, also a big name Republican governor from the 90s. And when you look at the opposition within the party to both Trump among Republicans and to Clinton among Democrats, you're looking at two candidates with the highest negative ratings in history, if I'm not mistaken. And that being the case, and with Johnson identifying, he's campaigning that on the internet website, I side with. You take that I side with, you can answer questions on policy and see who you come closest to siding with. He says that when he takes that test, he agrees 73% of the time with Bernie Sanders, of all people. And of course, that's not...
Except for the economics.
Not on economics. He's talking about on foreign policy, on drug war, on civil liberties, on the kinds of things that libertarians are liberal on.
In all honesty, I actually side pretty close to 73%. I think last time I checked with Bernie Sanders taking that thing, not with economics, but like on all the other social policies.
Right.
So how much personal money does Bill Weld, could he bring to the campaign?
I'm not sure that he has that much significant amount of personal
the
money.
family's got old money, but how much is it?
I don't think that's what is being brought to the table here. I think what's being brought to the table is his connections,
his Rolodex,
his Rolodex, and his influence.
For our younger audience, Rolodex is a thing that rolls with little cards.
It's
in
what
it
you
and
call
phone numbers,
Outlook.
It's your contact list. Yeah.
And they're talking, Bill Weld, old establishment influence, bringing in people like Mitt Romney, possibly bringing in Anybody really with any conscience in the Republican Party other than the neocons who are never going to, they're already doing hit pieces in National Review. They're already trying to bring up no-name non-entities. David French, who the hell is that? To run. Of course, he very intelligently said, no, I'm not going to. It's stupid. I couldn't get on the ballot in more than a half a dozen states anyway. So the Bill Kristols of the world are going to be blowing wind in this election regardless, but they're going to do everything they can to discredit both Trump and Johnson, and by happenstance supporting Hillary, because Hillary agrees with them on foreign policy, and that's what they are particularly interested in. They're just interested in a robust, interventionist, really strong, highly costly military, and that's their only real issue. So those are going to be lost to the Johnson campaign, but those who think that foreign policy should be sane are going to go for or can agree with Johnson and Weld, and of course civil libertarians can agree, and anybody that has any shred of common sense when it comes to economics will have to just basically shudder when they hear the nativist and the anti-trade positions of Trump and the socialist positions of Hillary Clinton, especially if she's tried to move in the Sanders direction during the primaries. The other interesting thing is that Johnson is polling much better among the under 35 demographic than he is among the over 35 demographic. Is that, do you think, Krist Novose'lic's endorsement, the Nirvana bassist and co-founder?
Well, if Kurt Cobain supports him, then I think Kurt Cobain's dead.
Well, yes.
Yeah, even you knew that.
Yes.
All right. So, well, I think
I have kids.
That this shows that libertarian thought is alive and well among the youth, and I'm calling youth. The guy's probably 40 or 45 now. When was that band at its height? In
1991.
And what's the quote that he said that
Johnson Weld is like Nirvana in 1991, which I think is when their first hit album came out.
First big hit, yeah. Smells Like Teen Spirit. That was a little bit later. That was a popular commercial hit. So there are an awful lot of libertarians in the arts. We're beat over the head over and over again about how liberal Hollywood is, but I think in the past, people haven't come out of the closet, so to speak, with their libertarian thought because they thought it was a wasted vote. Now, I've always thought that voting your conscience was never a wasted vote, and have voted that way for years. Instead, the lesser of two evils: vote for the good, and eventually the good will win. So, if Johnson, we know, is already polling, and let's call it double digits, despite the fact that he's probably being, the game is fixed in the polls. His popular support is probably nearer that 15% than that 9 or 10, and that's without any money. If these people even sniff the opportunity for not even a win, but a major statement in the elections, a 20 or 20% vote, then they're going to open up their pocketbooks, and they have them.
And let me just lay out an electoral scenario where Johnson could win. Of course, he could win a majority of the electoral votes. That would be difficult, not impossible. But I used to say that the Libertarian Party has a snowball's chance in hell. This year, it's a snowman's chance in hell. Mm-hmm. It's an improvement. But there is a scenario short of an outright electoral college win where Johnson could actually be elected. All Johnson will have to do is win one or two states, which they could easily do with perhaps New Mexico, Johnson's home state, Colorado, where the state has legalized marijuana and Johnson is very popular. Those two states, or either one of them, if they win one or two states and the rest of the states split between Clinton and Trump, leaving neither of them with an electoral college majority, the election automatically gets thrown into the House of Representatives. And I went back and checked my trusty pocket PLF Constitution and found out that if it goes to the House, the way it works is each state delegation votes on who that state will support. They vote among the top 5 vote getters. So Paul Ryan is not in the game. Nobody that the Republicans would like to see that didn't run, or one of the other 17 no-shows on the Republican field, they're not going to be included. The only people that will be included will be Trump, Johnson, Clinton, and maybe Stein, or whatever the Green Party person is, and whoever the 5th person.
The watermelon of the day.
Yeah, whoever.
Green on the outside, red
Yeah.
on the inside. Now, but that goes back
So
to
only
Clinton
5.
winning.
Well, no, it goes back to splitting the electoral vote.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have 270 electoral votes to win. Let's say that they each get 265, and Johnson gets 10, or whatever the difference is to get up to the total number of electoral votes. If that happens, each state votes on who they're going to support, and then 26 state votes elect the president. Now, if a blue state decides, the blue states are probably going to go ahead and elect Clinton, or vote for Clinton. Mm-hmm. But right now there are a majority of red states. Are the red states going to go for Trump, or are they going to go for an ex-Republican pair of governors, Johnson and Weld? I think there's a possibility they'll say, to hell with Trump, let's elect Johnson.
That presupposing Trump is the
We're
candidate of choice.
presupposing and everything here, because the conventions for the Republicans and the Democrats have not actually occurred. So at this point, they're presumptive nominees, and they have the delegates right now to win. Anything can happen. Hillary could get indicted and thrown in jail. Trump could be accused, could be found guilty of felony charges in the Trump University scandal. Who knows what can happen? Anything can happen. But right now, it looks like they will be sailing to their respective party nominations. Interesting times that we're living in.
That is the Chinese curse.
Yeah, I mean,
May you live in
interesting
interesting
times. Trump, the Republican nominee, is now calling on the National Rifle Association to block people on terrorist watch lists or no-fly lists from buying guns. This is antithetical to the NRA position for numerous good reasons. Even the ACLU thinks this is crazy. This is of course in the panic after the Orlando massacre. Mm-hmm. But Trump ditching one of the stalwart supporters of the Republican Party, what's that all about?
Well, I think I'm not a real big believer in conspiracy theories, but in this case, I'm starting to tend toward the idea that some people have raised that Trump is in it to lose it, so that Hillary wins it.
Are you saying that we've got a producer's plot going on here?
We've got
sing the song.
I'll just sing one of the songs from the producers. Springtime for Hitler and Germany. Autumn for Holland and France.
And
so don't be a smarty. Join Trump's party. So I can't conceive of anybody, unless they got their meds switched up, saying the things that Trump is saying, unless he's intentionally trying to be a loser, because he was riding pretty high. And I think he woke up one morning and think, oh my gosh, there's a chance that my buddy Hillary might not win the election. I better get even stupider. And he has gotten stupider quickly. Now, I'm not saying that's happening, but it's sure going to make a good book. There's probably 20 or 30 people writing that book right now. But I can't believe that the NRA doesn't have the ability to block anything. They don't have. How could they block
They have the ability to withdraw their endorsement of Trump, and Trump pissing off every gun owner in America. That's that's a big chunk of the Republican base. He's crazy, especially with Johnson, stalwart in favor of the Second Amendment. Trump has also said, if it can be proven that somebody had information about any attack, I'm quoting directly now from one of his so-called speeches. If it can be proven that somebody had information about any attack and did not give this information to authorities, they must serve prison time. Stasi, anybody?
Well, if you're aware that somebody's going to commit murder, and they go out and commit murder, then I'm not a lawyer. When I say that I work for Pacific Legal Foundation, my title is development officer. I'm a fundraiser, freedom fighter, help gather money. So I'm not a lawyer, but I understand the way the law works is that if you have knowledge certain about a crime prior to that crime being committed, then you're supposed to legally do something about it. Now, the problem with this statement, it says give this information to authorities. As we've watched our government in action, can we really say that any of them are authorities on anything? And I think the answer would be no. If ATS misses 95% of the contraband, getting through screening, then how can we call any of them authority? Who would you report it to? Your local police? But if he's reporting rumors, then it is Stasi. If somebody has knowledge certain about a violent act, then it's their duty as a citizen to report it.
This reeks of, if you see something, say something. The worst abuses of Homeland Security and the George W. Bush.
I know it reeks of that, but there is a small part of obeying what I believe the law is to that. I hate to say it, but the problem is that this statement, if it can be proven that somebody had information about any attack and did not give this information authority, is the same way that just look at, let's say, climate change. If it can be proven, there's all sorts of information and models out there, but there's no proof anywhere. There's no there is no causation. So I think you could certainly twist this to the rumor control, to Stasi, to which for the viewers that aren't aware was the East German security apparatus that. 1/6 of the population at one time, I think, worked for.
Yeah,
People
basically everybody informing on their
themselves.
parents, on their kids, on their neighbors, whoever, for not towing the proper Soviet socialist line. Speaking of Soviet socialists, or democratic socialists in this case, Bernie has been campaigning as a democratic socialist and talking about what a great place Sweden is, although they have dropped the democratic socialist model for all intents and purposes like 20 years ago. But one country that has not dropped their democratic socialism is Venezuela. The current president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, is a democratic socialist. He has endorsed Bernie Sanders as the best candidate for president in the United States. And there are looting and food riots in Venezuela. Is there a connection between democratic socialism and the complete economic collapse of that country?
Well, absolutely. I mean, every country that practices socialism, generally, if they're successful or survive it, they only do it temporarily. It's only a temporary gimmick. You can't survive more than 20 years with it. In Venezuela, you have an issue where in order to buy a thing of eggs, if you go there to visit right now, you have to pay $150 for a carton of eggs, and that's your money because of the transfer rate and everything and the inflation that's happened. And it was I think about 8 months ago or about a year ago was they had an inflation in their economy was inflated, but they had a short supply on vacuums. And it's a picture of a guy holding an empanada with his money. Instead of using a vacuum, he used his money because it was cheaper to use his money than it would be to buy vacuums to hold the empanada.
So were they making good use of their worthless currency for personal hygiene purposes as well, maybe?
I wasn't there to witness anything like that and don't want to be. So thanks for punting the suggestion,
Well,
John.
as Margaret Thatcher said, and this isn't a direct quote, it's a spin on her quote, the problem with socialism is you eventually run out of other people's money. But
unless you're manufacturing money by the truckload, which
they were.
Which is what Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro have been doing in spades.
But with Venezuela, they have money actually bubbling out of the ground. Some of the I think the largest proven reserves
they have the largest proven reserves in the world, even bigger than Saudi Arabia.
So the mismanagement that comes whenever government, and just to give you, I think this is my best visualization, is an elephant is a mouse built to government specs. So governments don't accomplish anything other than wasting money and padding their payrolls, and the more money you give them, the more money they waste. And in this case, the more money you print, the more they waste.
Correct.
Britain,
Yeah.
So as far as Bernie Sanders getting endorsed, I think this happened before. He was actually interviewed by actually a Mexican TV station in Mexico about his campaign. They asked him about Venezuela. Well, he said, "Well, you want socialism? Look at Venezuela's economy." The entire interview, he wouldn't answer the question. He actually would say, "I'm only focusing on the campaign. I'm not aware of what's going on in Venezuela."
So a major candidate being completely unaware of the financial collapse of a country that's
Practicing democratic socialism.
is an outright lie. Yeah.
Or a lie or total
But there
ignorance.
is a
Who cares?
country that practiced that was basically a welfare state cradle to grave, and they speak the same language as us, only they make it sound a whole lot better. And
Are you talking about Britain?
Britain, and
Britain
they've
is,
turned back the clock on that and become
yeah.
a much better economy, and they're talking about bailing from...
Well, yeah, Britain joined the European currency union. No, not the
European
currency.
Union,
The
not the
European
currency.
Union, not the currency. They kept the pound. But now they're talking about divorcing themselves from the European Union, which is basically their version of NAFTA. Started several years earlier. The Brexit vote is going on as we speak, and
The vote is, or
on the 20,
now?
yeah, as of the 23rd of June, that's when the vote is taking place, and we don't know what the vote's going to be yet. If Britain leaves the European Union, will that bode well for the world economy? Will it bode well for Europe? Will it bode well for Britain?
Well, it'll bode well for the European economy. Temporarily, there'll be a shock. It won't bode well for the European Union because Britain is the counter to the power struggle between France and Germany. In England right now, what the people who are in government and vested interest are doing is the same thing that our fearmongers do here. Well, your free medicine's going to be at risk here. Your pensions are going to be at risk here. Everything's going to be at risk here if you vote to leave the European Union. But if it's my understanding, and they run some pretty clean polls in Britain, that the exit or the Brexit is leading quite handily in the polls.
Well, in the polls it is. However, in the bookmaking operations, Brexit will fail, and I'll put my money on the people who are betting
right,
money.
I forgot about that.
Who are betting money on the election, and the people who are betting how it's going to work out say that Brexit will fail, and the reason being that people who oppose Brexit are the older demographics who vote, and the people who are in favor of it are the younger demographics who vote not so much. That's the show for this week. We'll see you again next week, same time, same place on the Libertarian Counterpoint. Thank you very much for being a part of it. You can see us on the web at www.accesssacramento.org, on YouTube, and on cable channels all over the place, and of course Channel 17 in Sacramento. Thank you for watching. See you again next week.
Well, thank you for having me on the show, Richard.